Welcome today to Allianz Joy. I am glad to see you. I hope you are listening on Roku, Apple TV, Amazon Fire, to the replay, or if you're coming in live today, welcome. My name is Elian Haan. I'm the host of Allianz Joy, and every week I'll bring you joy, I'll bring you happiness, I'll bring you some crazy conversations, and I'll bring you amazing guests. Today I have Lisa and Williams with me. Lisa is the CEO of StoryShift and a transformational coach, spiritual psychologist, a writer and performer. Right up my alley. I love that. Originally from New Jersey, she left her first life as CPA in New York City behind and followed her relentless intuition to California, where she pursued an authentic and creative life, including freedom from past conditioning. And I love that as well. We're going to talk about that. Every day, Lisa is grateful for the gift of living in beauty, in nature, and with her favorite landscape around her, where the ocean meets the mountains. She's an award-winning chili maker. I love that too. And currently transitioning to raw vegan. Hi, Lisa. I'm so glad you're here on the show. Thank you for being with me today on this show podcast. Welcome, darling.
Hi,
How are
Ellie. I'm great. It's great to see you, and thank you for having me here.
you? Have you here? Tell me a little bit about yourself. Who is Lisa, and what are you up to?
Oh my gosh. Okay, where do you begin with that?
Where did we start, right?
Well, we talked a little bit about this in the prep, right? It's like this question, who am I?
Mm-hmm.
And I I don't really answer that question, I think, in the typical way that people answer it. Because that's the ultimate question, who am I?
Yeah. Yeah. You're a mom.
Who am I? Yeah. So, people usually start with their name and what they do to make money and all these titles and ways that they identify themselves in the outer world.
Yeah.
That's not actually how I think of that question.
Yes.
So, yeah, so I experience it as much more internal
Mm-hmm.
and who am I? So internally, I feel like I am an individuation of life source.
Right. And the things that you have learned, the things that you have experienced, the things that brings you to the moment right now, where you're in the moment, where you're present. You're very about awareness. You're very about being in the moment and enjoying life. Just like I see you all the time talking about being in the mountains, being on the beach, and just being in the moment, right? So for you, maybe it's very much about being in the moment and being present.
I
Be
think we're all designed differently.
Mhm.
I really do. So I won't say that my way is better or worse than someone else's. There's trillions of individuations, right? And we all experience life differently. But yeah, I do these posts called, current POV, current point of view.
Yeah.
And then when I experience something beautiful or interesting, I like to take a photo of it and then share that as a point of beauty. And you're right, just being in the moment.
Yeah. Yes. And I love that about you. I love your writing. And I brought that up many times because you're a very creative writer. You did study that and you do that tremendously. I can't do that so well. Good post about my POV at that moment. I love that about you. We're in the same group. We met in the same mastermind. We're both students of life and students of business and students of anything spiritual and anything that comes to us. Why did you make that big transition in your life? When did that happen? When you just left New York City, the Big Apple, all that good stuff, or not so good at the moment, and you went to the other side of the country.
Yeah, oh my gosh, amazing question. And even though that was, 30 years ago for me, it was really, I came to that uh, choice point in my life very early.
Yeah.
So what happened was, I went off to school, college. I actually wanted to do when I was a teenager, and you're in that age stage of identity, really identity development is like age 12 to I believe it is 21 and in psychological development. And something really traumatic and shocking happened in my life and in my family when I was about 15, 16. So it was right in the center of it. And I actually find this happens to a lot of people right at that age. Uh, and instead of going off to do the things I was like really allowing myself to think about, like go to UCLA for film school or be a photographer, which at the time I didn't actually know you could do. Remember, this is long
Yeah.
before the
Yeah.
internet, you know, so I enjoyed it. I was good at it. I still have a great eye, but I didn't even know you could be a photographer or a dancer.
Yeah.
We have that in common. Those are the things I was interested in at the time. But when that traumatic event happened, something happened inside of me, and I was very alone with it. And I remember thinking and making the decision, I'm not going to let this ruin my life. Now, the way I translated that was I went into survival mode. I felt like I had to go into survival mode. And I'm sharing this because this is not uncommon. A
Right.
lot of people experience life like this. So what did I do? Well, I was in high school. I was really also good at math and accounting. So I have like both sides of the brain going on here, firing
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
So I went off to, I grew up in New Jersey and I went off to the University of Connecticut Business School and I worked really, really hard. I almost in my junior year, I actually had my first, I would say, really a conscious awareness of depression. And I remember the feeling of like, what is this? Because I absolutely love learning. I knew that about myself. I loved learning. And I was like, why do I want to quit? Why don't I want to do this anymore? And I did reach out for some help from my mom, who wasn't really able to help me, but she basically kind of told me to keep on, which is what a lot of people get as advice. Just push
Yeah.
through,
Yeah.
just push through. So that I did. And I graduated, I facilitated the business school, job fair. I had 4 offers for employment for out of the 6 biggest global CPA and finance firms in the world by a year before I graduated.
Yeah.
And I interned at IBM and then I went off to work for one of them.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, so I worked really hard and I was able to achieve something that my heart actually wasn't in,
Yeah.
which is kind of a cool achievement, but also that process can really repress all the other things you really desire. That's the risk in doing something like that. Um,
Yes.
so I did that for about 3 or 4 years, earned my CPA. I was recruited to Revlon, the makeup company in New York City as an internal auditor, and was traveling around the world. And on one of those trips, I got really, really ill, really ill. Like I was alone in my apartment in New York City, not sleeping for days, contemplating suicide because of the sheer agony of what I was going through. It was an undiagnosed condition. I did a story on this once.
Mm.
And after I healed from that, I know I'm skipping a lot because of time together here, but it's all in my story. After healing from that, I made a decision. And this whole time, there was something inside of me that kept saying, I wanted to be in California. And it
Yeah.
wasn't the typical reasons. It wasn't like to go into acting. It wasn't for a relationship. It wasn't because I knew anyone there, because I did not know one single person. I didn't have a sister or an auntie or anything like that. It was just this unrelenting thing within me that kept whispering to me. I was probably about 25 at the time.
Yeah.
And I happened to meet someone in New York City. Now, this is where the synchronicity starts to happen, who lived across the street from me in New York City. I mean, it's like 10 million people.
Yeah.
And he was moving out to California. We would bike ride together in the city. We were just friends. And um, he was moving out to California to take a job at Hanna-Barbera as the animation company as
Yes.
vice president of development. And I told him about my desire. And he said, if you want, they're moving some of my things out there for me. You could throw in a few things. So anyway, fast forward, I said yes to it.
Yeah.
traveled cross country. He and I drove for a little bit, and then I dropped him off. I think he was going to see a girlfriend or something somewhere, dropped him off. And I drove into Los Angeles by myself, not even having a place to live,
Wow.
um, not having a job, having, I think, $1,500 or something in my pocket at the time, everything in the back of my car.
Yeah.
Very few things I took with me.
Wow.
And I just drove around the city and I figured it out.
Yeah, you did. That's courageous. That's adventurous. That is big time courage. Just
And
pick
this
it
is
up and
this
do
is
it.
not the age of the internet. This is
Yeah,
well
yeah, yeah, yeah.
before we didn't have GPS, we didn't have all those
No, you
things.
gotta have a map and you gotta figure it out. And you gotta find a place to stay and the whole
You
bit.
know?
Those were the days.
And then I started thinking about, then I started thinking about who I really am and what do I really desire, what lights me up. So that's the process of unconditioning, right? We've been conditioned throughout school to survive, to meet the expectations of others, to go towards things that are deemed worthy and successful and valuable
Absolutely.
instead of who I really am. And so my life has been a process. In fact, I got that assignment, I'll say, at that age of 15 or 16. And this was a very important moment for me when all of that was the chaos was going on around me. Somehow I had the wherewithal to sit in my teenage bedroom and get really still
Yeah.
and quiet and into a meditative state.
Yeah.
I had taken martial arts for 5 years, so I had a bit of background in
Yeah, a bit
meditation.
of understanding of it. Yes. Yeah.
And I just sat there and I asked what it was that I really, really wanted. That was my question. Now, I coach now, but I'm doing this at 15 years old with
Yeah.
myself.
Yes.
What
Yes.
do I really, really, really want out of everything I could have in life?
Yeah.
And I just listened. And then again, an answer came from within and it surprised me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the answer was, this is how it came, to know God and to know myself.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Yes. Yeah.
And
And you're very
that's
young. It's
been the
very
driving
young.
force
Yeah.
of my
Yeah.
life.
Yeah, not everybody has that huge quest of existentialism, right? When we're young. I mean, and it's just like you say, we talked about that so many times. I talk about it all the time on this podcast. What is it that's, and a lot of women have this. We go first into this conditioning. We first go into this life of what is expected of us. And I think it's very normal, either if it's, and it comes with, the desire for family and kids and settling and buy a house and the whole bit, right? Everything that comes with it. And somehow I think you figured it out very young that you had to get away from that. A lot of us are a little bit later or late bloomers when we figure that out. And we go to that quest of who are we really? What is God's purpose? What is God's goal for our life? Where do we just need to be a mom or, work a job that we don't really like? Or do we need to go a little bit deeper? And you and I both help people find or find the answers to that question, right? A lot of people are in that midlife and come to us and say, I don't know, so I need some help with that. How did you do it? You
Yeah, that
studied some creative writing, you studied psychology. Where does that come in place when you're thinking about these questions? How does that fall in place?
how does the study of psychology come
Yeah,
into
just psychology and spiritual psychology and creative writing. What do you do with that to help yourself forward first?
like when you ask me these questions, it's like the galaxy. Like it's for me, that's how I experience it, the galaxy inside, it's so rich. First of all, I just want to acknowledge what you said because it's like, you're right. Most people will work for, 30, 40 years
Yeah,
and then come to like a crisis point of like, oh my God, wait, what am I doing?
yeah,
And it's not like my journey is over. I mean, that quest to know, I'm saying God, know myself as God, as a creator, is lifelong.
Yeah.
So for me, I have described it as it's like an astronaut going into the galaxy to explore stars and space and planets and black holes and solar flares and whatever else is out there. But it's like,
Yeah.
it's this way.
Yeah.
It's
Inside. Yeah.
it's like all of that inside of me, who am I? And that's never ending. It's always unfolding.
Yeah.
So to jump to your question about spiritual psychology, that happened in a really, of course, magical way also. I had my son, I have one son who's 19 now, and I had him when I was, I think, 34 years old, 34, 35. And when he was about 2 years old, I it struck me that I am responsible for another human being, like whoa, like really responsible. What is my philosophy?
Yeah.
What am I going to teach this other human being? It's not just me anymore. What do I stand for?
Yeah.
And how do I get happy? Because I was unhappy in my marriage. There was lots of stressors going on, like a lot of people have with young children. Um, and I read something. Actually, it was like Eckhart Tolle at the time. Now, this is 17 years ago.
Yeah.
I read something by Eckhart Tolle, and you know how you hear things over and over, but at one point you hear something and it like clicks.
Yeah. It just hits. Yeah.
Yeah, it just goes in there and it's like, oh, well, that's
Yeah.
what happened. And the question he asked was, stop asking what you want from life and start asking what life wants from you.
Yeah.
Now, as coaches, we also talk about, what do you desire? Like, I'm really interested in what people's secret lives are.
Yeah.
And I wrote a story on that once too, and it was so wonderful to do. It was so layered, but the secret life is kind of like, what's in there that I know I want to do, but I can't even bear to tell people, or I'm scared to death, but that's like the driving work that I'm really here for.
Yes.
So I just put that question. I'm a very contemplative person. I live actually a very, very contemplative life because it's that internal galaxy. So what does life want from me? It's like I just placed the question in my heart. And I just waited and listened.
Yeah.
And truly, in about 3 days, I remember I went to my computer and I just typed in the words spiritual psychology. And it's like, I don't know where that came from because I had no conscious recollection of seeing that phrase before or putting those words together. And as soon as I typed it in, up came this school that is located in, I was living in Calabasas, California at the time, and the school is located in Santa Monica. It's called the University of Santa Monica.
Yeah.
And they've been teaching spiritual psychology, and that's all they teach for like 45 years.
And it was just there, your answer.
I saw it and I was just like, what the hell is this? Because it was only like an hour away from me, and I'd been in Los Angeles for, I don't know, 10 years by then.
Yeah.
And I've been in, spiritual bookstores and everything. I've never come across it. And so that was the process. And then it was, exciting and terrifying, and going through the application process, and then the years of very intensive, introspective, deep work.
Wow. Yeah. Deep study. Yeah. Deep work. Yes. Yes.
Study with experience. It's really experiential. When people ask me, what is spiritual psychology, or what do you do with it? Here's a great question. What do you do with it? Because everyone wants to know, what do you do with things? Well, my answer is, I do everything with it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's nice. I like that.
It's consciousness. It's the practice, science, and art of developing one's consciousness, which is awareness.
Awareness. I was just going to say awareness, being present again. Yes. And being introspective, listening to self. Yes. I had never heard of it, and definitely not knowing that Santa Monica had such a big, huge curriculum program on it. I didn't know either. And I was having the same thoughts, and it's so funny that you say that because we always say, indeed, people are always asking, "Hup, here I am, so as a host, like, what do you do with it? What do you do with this? What do you do with that?" And it's all about, sometimes I get away from that because it is the same as I don't want to ask. I don't want people to ask me, what do you do? But who are you? Right? Instead of what do you do? Because it's, I don't know how many people have asked me, never, for my diplomas or my resume, seldom, right? But it's about how I stand in life and how I present myself and how I am mindful or aware of the things that I do around me and the things that I give away. And I think that's very interesting that you brought that up again, because it's about what do you do with it? As if you can fill your 40 hours a week with some great, scheduling and some great capacity, and that's not important at all. It's not
Yeah,
important.
yeah. People want to put you or themselves maybe in a box because they're seeking understanding. And again, it's level of consciousness. So if you have that level of consciousness where you're trying to understand who someone is by what they do,
Mhm.
then that's where your consciousness is. But when you expand your consciousness, you realize that's like not at all where my come from is.
Right,
You
right.
know, and there's, as you know, right now, especially right now, because of the explosiveness of, the internet and social media, there's so many people who are, just super polished and on stages, and we want to, serve a billion people. And
Yeah.
like it's just more and more and more and more. And I really made, I was a little nervous to come on with you today because I haven't done a podcast in several years. Before I went through breast cancer treatment a few years ago and stopped everything for an entire
Sure.
year to
Yes.
focus my tools and skills on myself and on my healing for that year.
Yes.
But I made an intention today to just show up unpolished, unapologetic, kind of just be myself and hurl myself into the abyss, as one of my great writing teachers has said to me.
And I'm so glad you're here and you're doing that, because I'm getting away from polished. I'm getting away from being perfect or even being perfectly imperfect. It's just being us. And yes, I think that
And
a
it
lot
doesn't
of
even
our
work.
conversations like this, girl conversation, I just women to women, because we're all at times, oh my goodness, last week I was lost, I wasn't motivated. We get that. And it might be all kind of reasons. I had tons of reasons to be. And instead of just saying it's all good, you just slowly make a comeback early on. It's fine if you didn't do social media for a couple of days, or you didn't promote your business or whatever you're working on. It's fine. But we are so not nice to ourselves in many ways that we don't forgive ourselves when we just fall off the wagon for a few days, or we take time out to heal, or we take time out to do nothing. And I think that's also, and we always have to come up with something big, just like you mentioned, right? It has to be out there. We just have to be ourselves. That's all we have to be. And I'm glad you are. I'm
It's
very
the scariest, it's truly the scariest thing to be your true self, though, because it's about not trying to be something other than yourself. And there's a lot of pressure from the outside. Everything we see on social media, all the input, all the selling,
yeah,
all what we think we're supposed to do. I mean, how is it any different from the conditioning in school? What
yeah,
if you're not that? What if your desire and your design is something different?
yeah, yeah. True,
Are
true.
you less worthy? Are you less valuable? I mean,
Yeah,
people say, no, that's not true, but then there is judgment. So
yeah, I
it
hear.
takes tremendous courage and presence and self-awareness to really like pull back from that and inquire, wait, is that for me, or is that not for me?
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you. And there's a lot of pressure out there. And we are I am at times very sensitive to that judgment, thinking, oh, it's not good enough. It's not. It's not right. It's not enough. I'm not doing enough. And like I said, I just have a hard time sometimes forgiving myself for the fact that I just have these thoughts.
Mm.
But we are all just on our own individual journey. I think with story transformation, I talk about that so much when we are trying to paint our own story, create our own story, write our own story, look back at our own story. What are the benefits of what we have really done with that, right? It does not necessarily have to be only for others. It has to be for ourselves to really get to know each other deeply and truly and going to that healing space of working through emotional pain and trauma. We have to find empowerment in it, the things that we already did, looking back at the things that we have overcome. And you mentioned so many things that I didn't know about you. This huge career in New York that wasn't really Lisa, but was expected to go bam in corporate workforce right out of high school and study and university.
It's a part of me though. So part of I have tremendous self-compassion. It doesn't mean I don't experience depression or anxiety or, the collective pressure of life. But I do practice, and this does come from my spiritual psychology work and background. It's a practice of self-compassion. So one of the tenets in there is, how you are with yourself as you are going through the issue is the issue.
Can you repeat that?
How you are with yourself as you're moving through the issue is the issue. It's how you are with yourself.
Yes.
So hell could be breaking loose. I could be going through chemotherapy for 9 months. I could be alienated from my son. All of
Yeah.
this has happened. Um, Isolated, alienated, rejected, whatever. How I am with myself while I'm going through those things.
Is the issue.
That's where my focus goes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not that my focus doesn't go elsewhere, but that's where I bring myself back to. Am I being kind with myself? Am I being compassionate on my darkest days? Can I care for myself? Can I hold myself? Can I know that I'm okay and I will be okay? That, joy comes in the morning after the darkest
Mm. Yeah.
night, dawn comes, those types of things.
I love what you said about that. It relates to me a little bit, or I feel it's one of the things that I really teach a lot or work on with people a lot when it comes to not being constantly a reaction or a response or a reply, but being in the moment and being the creator instead of responding to life, right? What are we doing with the situation? What are we doing with the events? What are we doing? How are we standing in it with ourselves? That's what you're really bringing up. And I love that. Because a lot of us are, again, conditionally, I think, responsive, or especially with the life that we're in right now, we're constantly in reply mode, right? Because we're just living on our phone or we're living on our computer, on our laptop. A lot of us do. And that creates for me a lot of time a constant reply response mode, as if I don't have time to be alone or be creative or be on my own with my thoughts and create because I'm just so busy responding to the world, that has something posted on social media or sent me an email. So it's very nice that you said that the issue is really being with yourself and empower yourself. What is the nicest, or what is the first thing? What is the thing that you would advise me, others, your clients, when you work with them to be compassionate, to be good to yourself? What are some of the things that you do? Is it
Mm,
meditation? Is it music? You're taking a lot of walks, you're taking a lot of outside of nature time. What kind of things would you recommend for us?
yeah. Oh gosh, that's so much and so rich also. Well, one thing I will say is that everything is a practice. I mean, the
Yeah.
path to mastery in anything is a path of practice. You know, we don't just like arrive and it's over. It's always practice. Masters are still playing scales to begin with.
Yeah.
Constant practice. So a lot of these skills are integrated in me, and I still practice them like a beginner every day. So yes, I moved myself into an area, to come back to the original story about moving from the East Coast to California by intuition. Um, Beauty and nature and landscape environment was very important to me for this organism. And so I placed myself in a place where I walk in nature every day. I was walking with my feet in the grass this morning for just about 20 minutes this morning. Sometimes I go for hours, and I listen to bird song, and I look at the blue sky, and I am aware I breathe the fresh air, and I put my feet on the ground. Grounding is like magic,
I was
connecting with
just
earth,
yeah, yeah,
connecting your body with the earth. It's
yeah.
electric. We are electric, electric beings. So that energy is so important and will make you feel better very quickly. So those are really important practices I have. And sometimes the compassion, like I also have a practice of, I'm trying to see how I could explain it. I take clients when they're really struggling with guilt, shame, self-judgment, self-criticism, those kinds of things. I will take them through processes of identifying the judgment, because we have to become aware first of what we're
No,
doing,
really, yeah,
what we're
yeah,
saying to ourselves,
yeah.
how we're treating ourselves, how we are with ourselves is the issue. And then a process of uh, untangling those judgments, self-forgiveness, because all forgiveness really comes back to the self, and compassionate self-forgiveness. And then we go into like what the actual truths are. Like all this conditioning is not my truth.
True. Yeah,
It's not my truth. So
yeah.
then but you have to like get there, like what's my truth? So now I personally, that's how I might work with a client, but personally for me, I might go straight to like flooding myself with self-compassion. Like literally it's an intention, and then just like I flood my body with it. And I'm in a state of being, I guess, a present state of, it's dark as hell, but I'm self-compassionate. I
Yeah,
could be in grief and still feeling self-compassion deep.
yeah. And I think it's very important. I'm so glad you brought it up. I'm so glad you explained that the way you do. It is beautiful. It's something we can understand, and it's definitely something that we all need to work on. Definitely women, because we're so busy being busy, right? Even whatever it is. Sometimes I think we're busy with the kids, we're busy with the house, we're busy with the things that we need to do regardless. We're wearing 10, 20 hats. We forget how much that is, and then we're going to be busy being a businesswoman or being an entrepreneur or being whatever we are. The being of just being and nothing else that you just reflect on, saying, I'm just standing in it and I'm okay. And I'm okay with that being okay. That's really big. And I think it releases us from all the layers of pressure of having to prove something.
Yeah.
What we do. Who are you by what you do? Who are you by what you have? Right? All these questions that I don't want to go there. I am not what I have. I am not just what I do. I'm more than that. And I'm so glad you brought that up today, because that's really big. It's
Yeah.
huge. It's
Yeah,
huge.
that's going into, major consciousness shifts to get to the point where, like my I'm not my home. I'm not my status. I'm not even my thoughts. I'm not
Yeah.
my feelings. I mean,
Yeah.
I have feelings, I have thoughts, but who I am is so much deeper. It's a loving essence. And, you know, some people don't know what I'm talking about. but that's what I can help with.
I
Some
love it.
you know what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about, and I think it's so important. And I love that you brought it up today. And I love having a show today about the topic of peeling off those layers and going, 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 and finding ourselves, our true spirit, our true divine self, I would say, right? Just like you say, with God and us in combination of where we need to do, what we need to be to feel 100 or maybe even 200 or 300% ourselves. I love that. If you would work with people on this transformation, we call this a transformation, right? It's always it's always something that has to do with the process of reshaping our personal narratives to where we've been and where we want to go and what we want to do. It's an endless story. I'm gonna just bring that up as our last word. I'm gonna give you the last word here to put something in, but it's indeed an ongoing process that doesn't stop. We're not done. If we want to master something, we're gonna just go, go, go and do the same thing over and over again. I worked in groups in the days, and I told my students always, if you want to be a master in it, you need to do the same thing all the time. And maybe you don't even, want that or do that all the time. I mean, you gotta swim, you gotta dance, you gotta make the same pirouettes. You gotta do the same thing all the time to really get good at it. And learn and be open to growth. Be open to growth.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm
It's
giving
kind of,
you a little bit of the last word. Yes.
I don't even know if there is a place in me that's like, I want to be a master. It's almost like for me, I'm compelled or I'm driven. And it comes from that example that I gave you when I was a teenager in my bedroom and I asked the question.
Yeah.
The answer had nothing to do with the material world. It was to know myself.
Personal and spiritual growth. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's not like a really easy assignment. I'm not saying it's an easy assignment,
I
but
would say that a lot
that's
of people are
the
not
assignment.
taking it on.
Say again.
A lot of people are not taking that on and maybe are afraid or maybe are not ready to take that on yet. So there's a lot of us. Yeah.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
awakening process, my teachers I have lots of teachers, lots and lots of teachers. Everybody is my teacher. Uh, but my teachers, two of my main teachers used to say, this is not for the faint of heart.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like you've earned your right to be here when you've gotten to this point. And it's not about judging anyone else. We're on a continuum of development. So we can't really know what is in someone else's soul and heart. Never completely. Even my own son, who I feel like, he's probably the person I know best in the world because I've spent so much time with him. I was a full-time mom. I homeschooled him for a while. And I try to be very aware and present with him.
Yeah.
But I would never claim to know
Another. Yeah.
everything that's in his soul.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. True.
so I believe we're all from the same source, but we're all also very unique.
Yeah.
And there's reasons that people are in your life and doing what they're doing. So as best as we can, we're all human too. So we do have judgments, we do have reactions, we do have feelings, but the quicker you can get to, okay, like I'm okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
I forgive myself. I'm compassionate. Yes, I'm human. Yeah,
Yes.
that person's human too.
Yeah.
The the uh the less angst, maybe, the
Yeah.
the more faith you'll have.
Yeah. Yeah. The stronger you are. And the
More,
stronger.
yeah.
Yes, yes, it definitely makes you stronger. Although recognizing that growth and the fact that you're constantly in transition, it does make you stronger because you are in that sense of awareness. And that's what I always like to be, to be more aware makes us definitely pay more attention to ourselves. Absolutely. Yeah,
It's everything.
yeah, it's
Self-awareness,
everything.
number one. I once saw a relationship coach, actually, a very good one, talk about, he was asked what's the number one quality for someone in a healthy relationship. And his answer was self-awareness.
Yeah,
Because
yes,
without self-awareness and without taking responsibility for ourselves, because we're aware of our thoughts and feelings and we're emotionally honest, without that, we will project those unseen, unaccepted, unhealed parts onto someone else
Absolutely. Yeah.
and
Yes.
then judge them and then make them wrong. That's projection 101. And
Yes, absolutely.
huge
Yes,
skill
absolutely.
to have.
Yeah. And we have lots of that. We have lots of that. Absolutely. Because I have some relationship coaching going on that is all about listening and understanding ourselves and then each other. Yeah. And if we start there, then the world will be a better place. I hope so. I hope so. Thank you for being on with me today, Lisa. You are just so full of wisdom. You are a source. I love talking to you. Thank you so much for today. I want our listeners to know that they can find you on Facebook, definitely. Very much. I mean, it's wonderful to follow you. I love it. Find Lisa at StoryShift on Facebook. What was it? What was the last words?
StoryShift, Facebook.com/ I guess, StoryShift Law, which are my initials, LAW.
Oh
Story
yeah, StoryShift blog. Yes, absolutely. Yes, 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 yes. And we made lots of posts and we have a lot of replay going on this week. So you will find us there and then click on Lisa and follow her and reach out and message and messenger and DM and start a conversation. Thank you so much for being my beautiful, amazing guest today. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
being on this show. I loved our conversation. Hang on for a little bit about our aftermath, and I'm going to stop the recording. I will see everybody next week. Thank you for being on Allianz Joy today. Thank you for listening or listening to the replay. Reach out to me as well, allianhaan.net. I will keep the conversation going. Thank you so much.